Testing 1 2 1 2 testing.
Good evening, Professor. Good evening, everybody.
Hi, good evening, Richard. Good evening. Welcome to class. Great to have you on board.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening. Good evening. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Welcome to class.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to class. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to join in, about another 3 minutes, and then we get started. Just catching up with the student quickly. All right, welcome to class, everyone. We're just waiting for everyone to join in. We're giving them 2 or 3 minutes. Let's see how they do.
Good evening, Professor. How are you?
Good, man. Good. Can't complain on yourself.
Good, good. So far, so good.
Thank you. Thank you. Right, so this evening we're going to get started with Allo 2, the second Allo, and we're going to get started with organizational performance. And we'll also spend a bit of time on the assignment as well, and then start building up that framework for the assignment. Start coming up with some tactics to get the assignment on the road. You know, we're at the third class, so definitely we need to be doing that now. All right, I think the rest of them have pretty much joined. I've given them a minute more, 7:33, and then I want to start. Right, brilliant. Let's go for it. Whoever else joins, they join. So we are on your slide packs. You should be having slide pack Allo 2 opened. And Allo 2 is to critically discuss the impact of human resource management activities on the organizational performance. As I said, this is the main part of this second outcome. All right, so let's get started with that then. And we're going to follow through from my notes out of here. I'll share the link again. I'll post it here in the chat box for you. Okay, so most companies obviously have a human resource department that is often associated with catering to staff welfare. Now, this department and its team, they also serve many other key purposes. And these are essential to employee management as well as organizational success. So we've gone over the functions of human resource management, but just to recap, it involves recruitment, training, and deploying of employees when and where they are needed. developing, executing, and overseeing policies that govern employees, managing the relationship between the organization and its employees, ensuring employee satisfaction, providing opportunities for employee growth and advancement. And different organizations have different HR teams of varied sizes, structures, and skill set. And so that was just to recap us back on the functions of human resource management. Now to get into this evening's class, we start off with how organizations measure performance. So to determine if your organization is successful, you need to have a way to measure performance. And mostly it's recommended that there are two main areas in which one can measure this performance. First of all, is economic performance. So economic performance is, have your profits increased? Have your sales volumes increased? Have you got a greater return on your investment? Then you can look at a second area, which is operational performance. Now, this looks at customer satisfaction. Are you getting regular feedbacks from customers that are happy, that are content? Are you getting repeat purchases? Our customers keep coming back, even if you have a service offering. Are you doing strong in client retention? So if you have a service offering, are you retaining your clients? Are you able to attract more clients through word of mouth based on how well you've been performing? Again, performance. So from word of mouth and recommendations, you are now getting in new clients. So is that allowing you to start developing a bit of a market dominance on the market? Those kind of best indicators of performance that the organization is doing well and the organization is succeeding. So there are a number of ways in which organizational performance and which indicators can be chosen. And obviously it's dependent on the industry as well as the organization's goals. Now, the level at which this performance is being assessed will also matter. For instance, how you measure the performance of an individual employee will differ greatly from how you measure that of the entire organization. So if we have a non-profit health department organization involved in the health sector, they are now chasing to get vaccinations done. Let's say currently the huge outbreak in Texas with measles is a huge issue. So let's say they launch that initiative to chase that down. Their success rate would be the number of vaccinations completed per day. And the more and more vaccinations they're able to complete, the more successful is being determined. So as we say, we're taking extreme example there, but each type of organization would have a different success factor. So when we look at those success factors now, where does human resource management fit into this? And how does human resource management impact organizational performance? So does it impact organizational performance? Well, absolutely it does. Absolutely it does. Because number one, we got to understand, if you do not have an effective workforce, a workforce that is committed, in order to achieve a workforce that is committed, they have clearly defined goals and objectives at their levels. They have their own clearly defined goals and objectives. They understand their targets, been fully explained to them. They work in an organization where things are achievable, doable. Then you have this high-performing team. So absolutely, human resource management plays a vital role in this here, as they're responsible for recruitment, hiring, training, and deployment of employees. So remember, it's employment and deployment. It is only through good hiring decisions that the organization can secure the talent it needs to perform well. So the first aspect of that, they're setting remuneration. So it's quite I'd say it's quite a gray area. And we must fundamentally understand this area. It does not refer that if we pay a higher than industry average by a great margin, that we're going to perform better. So there are certain cases, maybe, but most of the time, the performance difference in pay scale. So if I hire a guy, if I hire a staff member, and let's say the industry average for coming in as a general manager is $20,000. Now I bring that gentleman in or that lady in, I bring the new staff member in, whoever the individual is, and they perform. We increase sales volumes, we increase our profit margins, all these things are happening. And we're paying them at the industry standard at $20,000. Now, on the other hand, let's say we then hire another individual in another one of our divisions as general manager, and we decide we want to chase this guy down. Why? Because he's worked for Lipton Tea at Unilever, and he has a phenomenal track record. Well, he or she has a phenomenal track record. So we decide to pay them above the industry norm, and we go with, we'll give you industry plus 20%. So we're going to offer the guy $24,000 a month remuneration. Benefits will stay. Let's not get into benefits. Let's just look at the salary rate. The overall performance difference, meaning that if you look at the sales volumes, the profit margins between the two individuals is negligible. There is a very, very rare instance where you'd see a marked difference. So in essence, this is a gray area. We need to understand where the organization gains the maximum benefit, and beyond that is saturation. If you can understand that word, beyond that is saturation. Let me use an alternative example and take you off this topic on human resource, and let's look at something else. Maybe you can relate to it. So Emirates Airlines has the business class division, and it's highly developed. It's phenomenal. You take Singapore Airlines, they have a business class division. These are two of the best in the game. They're best in the world. Now, let's say Emirates decides they're going to, or Singapore, let's look at Singapore. Singapore decides they have formed a new alliance with a winemaker in Cape Town, and they come up with an exclusive red wine that they're now going to offer, or red and white wines that they're going to offer on their business class flights. Do you think more people are going to jump into the business class? No, not really. It's an additional benefit, but it will not be an attraction. They've already reached their saturation. People will come to Singapore Airlines if they want that standard in the business class. They're going to use that airline, they're going to use Emirates. Singapore is offering an additional small benefit on top of that there at a business class level. That's a flat line. Now let's take another airline, Kenya Airlines. Up and coming airline, boxing its way through the competition. And they are busy developing their business class. They now get the same deal from Cape Town, and they now offer these exclusive boutique wines on their business class flights. It's going to be a major attraction. More clients would choose that business class flight than others in the region, giving Ethiopia, Rwanda, South African Airways. They would select that one. Egyptian Airline. So because they now have this offering. So we must understand there are certain categories it can have a great deal of impact, and in certain categories it cannot. So if we relate that back, we must understand the current status of the organization. Current status of the organization, is the organization on a growth curve? If the organization is on a growth curve, the organization, the wheels already set in motion. Regardless of whether you pay the guy 24 or 20, there's more a stewardship, more steering and guiding and keeping it through and taking it up a notch higher. However, if the organization is stagnant and could possibly be turning around, and we're getting now a decrease in sales and we're losing momentum, then you need a specialist, and you need a turnaround specialist that can now understand how to revive and revitalize sales. Yes, then pay 24. So remuneration is not a fixed line. However, in saying that, the organization should understand and have certain guidelines developed to guide managers, hiring managers, directors, senior management level as to how to proceed. And this is one of the ways to identify remuneration. It's dependent on organizational performance. Based on the challenges ahead of the organization and what's required of the individual, then you would need that specific skill set. And then to make sure that your organization is viable, if that's a challenge and a threat that's on the horizon, then you're going to throw everything to get the guy that you want, or the lady, or whoever that staff member is, to bring them in. Survival, now this is what we're talking about. Employees are the most important asset the business has, and they are what allow it to function and deliver whatever products or services are needed to the target market. And human resource management makes it possible for the organization to hire employees they need to carry out various functions. It is their work that helps establish the business and allow it to grow. In exchange for this service, human resource management caters to the wellness of the employees. And this includes providing a conducive and safe work environment, managing their benefits, facilitating compensation, along with other human resource functions. And then growth. How much the organization grows is another indicator of its performance, whether in terms of profit, geographical parameters, or geographical presence or other parameters. Growth is a key indication of success. And it is the skills and ideas of the staff that bring the organization to aid it in expanding. Internal branding. The human resource management critical function is responsible for developing a good company culture. And this helps in attracting talented candidates. Candidates want to come work for this organization. There is a strong company culture, organization culture that attracts the best of the best. And employee productivity and satisfaction. There are many ways by which HRM can impact this. Offering flexible work options where permissible. It can be used to carry out staff surveys on what might be impeding their productivity what the organization can do to help. Conflict resolution as well, strong conflict resolution and rapid conflict resolution without allowing it to develop into an impediment is what's another big function of HR that impacts organizational performance. Then there's also liability issues. Human resource management oversees much of the liability-related concerns of the business, especially issues surrounding employees, such as diversity, hiring practices, discrimination, and harassment. So now we've gone through all these things. Let's get into what is organizational performance. So organizational performance can be subjective, depending on the organization, its goals, and the market. Organizational performance is the ability of an organization to reach its goals and optimize results. In today's workforce, organizational performance can be defined as a company's ability to achieve goals in a state of constant change. So there are a number of factors that go into what's deemed successful. And this includes things like shareholder value, social systems, market share, and organizational culture. So traditionally, organizational performance will be seen to be bucketed into three categories: financial performance, market performance, and shareholder value. Now let's look at tactical performance, a new version of this. Tactical performance is rooted in strategy, focus, and consistency. How well does the organization stick to its strategy? Tactical performance is defined as it sounds. It's consistent and focused on execution. It's delivering results when anticipated, and it doesn't allow for much wiggle room when it comes to risk, creativity, and innovation. But it does facilitate organizations to stay focused, especially when resources are limited. Adaptive performance is the exact opposite of tactical performance. Now, adaptive performance is an agile skill, and organizations are able to adapt when the environment changes, when factors change. The organization can adapt, especially now that we live in a world where there's volatility, uncertainty, and unknown. All of the best laid of plans need to have a factor of agility in them. And solid adaptive performance gives employees more autonomy over decision-making, strategy, and innovation. Major change can happen. The government can resign, and the government can go into an emergency election, and a new government can be appointed. The new government can come in, and trade regulations can change. Interest rates can change. A currency market can change. They can react badly to it. It's going to take time to build. Organizations need to have that adaptability in terms of adaptive performance to react to these kind of external market changes. And if the strategy needs to shift, an organization with adaptive performance can diverge from the original plan. But in order to do so, it should ensure that it has efficiency, clear communication, and still meet the employee and customer needs. So importantly is collaboration and team development are areas where adaptive organizational performers invest heavily in. So then how do you measure this organizational performance? We said it's subjective. There are a few themes that can help you to measure organizational performance. First one is financial performance. And this is one of the most common ways to measure organizational performance. This can be measured by market share, shareholder value, product market performance, shareholder return. Working with the finance team, you'll be able to identify what financial success looks like. Resiliency and change. Resiliency in the organization can be a benchmark metric for organizational performance. How resilient are your employees? Do your employees handle change well? What resources like virtual coaching can you leverage to build resiliency? So, good one for your assignment. Resiliency and change. Excuse me. Then culture and collaboration. As we said, organization culture is the lifeblood of many companies' organization. So how will you measure high performance culture in your organization? Again, this is a subjective measurement and it'll be personalized to the organization. You can measure things like employee engagement, employee experience, employee satisfaction, and this will come a lot from your KPIs. So how does your company culture resonate with your employees? Where do you need to make cultural changes? And in what ways can you help teams work together better? What role does collaboration play in your organization's culture? You can look at specifically over here, managing and developing high performance teams. Another great measurement for organizational performance is retention and growth. If you have a high turnover rate, you have a problem. If you have a low turnover rate, excellent. However, in addition to a low turnover rate, you also need to gauge what's the development or career growth of individuals within the organization. How many promotions have taken place? How many staff are still? So how do you gauge that then? You look at your annual review and staff that have been in a position for 2 years or 3 years and they have not progressed to another role, to a higher functioning. They are now static. So you can't say you have great performance because you got static staff. Instead, where you have this staff that you have got a good retention rate, but you also measure and you find that your key roles are being filled internally, you can now say, yes, a good measurement for organization has been our employee retention and employee growth. Okay. Pull this down and work from here. So there are 3 factors that impact organizational performance. Sometimes these are internal factors that require attention and care. Other times they're external factors like COVID-19. Regardless, it's important to be aware of the common impacts that your organization may face. First one is the manager-employee relation. Just give me a second. I'll catch up with you now. 1 second, please. Season changes get the Now what's my position here? Sorry, apologies. My camera seems to have stopped functioning. Can I have a second to just log in and log off and log in again? I'll catch you up now. Apologies for that. I had to change a device there. Somehow my laptop crashed on me completely there. No idea why. Just refused to get moving. Can everybody hear me clearly? Am I good and audible?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, brilliant. Thank you.
Yes,
Sorry
yes.
about that.
We can
Okay.
hear you.
All right, fantastic. Let me just get a charger for this one. Oh. Okay, we're back up and running live. Give me a second to just grab the documents again. Is this? And we'll pick it up now again. Where we were. Let me go back to the we were at right. What is oh here we go, here we go, here we go. Three factors that impact organizational performance. Perfect. We're back there and let's get into here. Okay, and Brilliant. I'm back up and running. Okay. All good and well. Okay. So as we were just discussing, any number of factors could impact your organization's performance. Sometimes these are internal factors that can require attention and care. Other times they're external factors like COVID-19 that can feel out of your control. Regardless, it's important to be aware of the common impacts that your organization may face. So the first one is the manager and employee relationship. It's important that your managers have an incredible influence on the employee experience. If an employee-manager relationship turns sour, it will negatively impact the business. For example, when a manager is low on resilience, we see a 23% decline in team performance. Let's rather number that. And then the next one is upskilling and learning opportunities. A lack of learning opportunities within the organization can be incredibly damaging. We know that most employees want to learn, grow, and upskill in their roles. When organizations provide learning pathways for their employees, the business benefits. And these are just a few of those benefits. You get increased employee retention, increased employee engagement, better productivity, increased employee well-being, and a better sense of value. Then the third factor, as we discussed and is part of this assignment, is the external environment. As mentioned, there are always external factors that can impact an organization's performance. We've all weathered the impact of the pandemic, with some industries like hospitality or retail taking bigger hits than others. However, other external factors could include things like politics, economic downfall, supply chain issues. So United States has gone through a new phase. We have a new president in place. President Donald Trump has come back on for his second term. And in that second term, he is now bringing about some material changes. Some of those changes include a raft of tariff charges for Canada. So trade between the two countries has been severely impacted, with a trade war now existing, with Canada now bringing about similar range of tariffs against American products. So there is now a complete tariff war being come about there. The ultimate result of that tariff war is going to be a fundamental rise in inflation for both the countries. And then Canada has got its own complications in that the Prime Minister has stood down. They've gone through an emergency elections, and this morning a new Prime Minister has been announced. So they have a new government being formed. So several political changes tied together with economic downfalls are going to have severe impacts. Then if we look at things like supply chain issues, we have very, very specific supply chain issues. Pardon me, let me get a tissue for myself again. Oh. Thank you for that. All right, so when we talk of supply chain issues, we can look at maritime choke points, maritime choke points, we have three fundamental maritime choke points. They are the Panama Canal, the Suez Canal, and the Bosphorus Straits outside of Turkey. Suez Canal outside of Egypt, and the Panama Canal obviously outside of Panama. So we all remember the large ship that ran aground in the Suez Canal, got wedged in the Suez Canal, created the huge maritime choke point there. Then we have the Bosphorus Straits with the war in Ukraine and Turkey wanting to close off the Bosphorus Straits to prevent from Russian Navy vessels from traveling up the Black Sea. So those kind of things can really impact. And then if we look at our specific case study, which is based on the COVID pandemic, supply chains were phenomenally impacted. The impact on supply chains was unprecedented, as there was a lack of effective staff. There weren't even staff to run and then to manage the process. There was a lack of staff. There was a lack of production happening. There were limited supplies. So very, very challenging supply chain situation to be in. And especially if the organization was following inventory management strategies such as just in time, the chance of their survival was very, very, they were extinct. They were an endangered species because that was a really challenging situation. We do know that shipping did start pretty quickly because the world started realizing that we could not survive without the supply chains. However, what we did learn from COVID pandemic is that organizations need far more resilient supply chains. That includes having a diverse supply, a diverse range of suppliers, so that the organization does not become reliant on one supplier or two suppliers. They have several suppliers that can supply them. So let's look then at performance planning. And it's also a part of our strategic planning phase. So here you want to set goals and strategies. So you'll set your goals and you'll develop strategies to achieve those goals. You'll also identify areas that need change. And these can be things like organizational structure. Once you developed your goals, you developed your strategies, you have a far more clearer picture of what's working and what's not working. And this is where a lot of cross collaboration will come into play. And it's where you need to invest into developing teams that work well together. You'll lean on these strategic planners to make sure your organization is headed in the right direction. So your first phase is the strategic planning phase. The next phase is performance appraisal. And this phase is often referred to as a diagnostic phase. Here it's an evaluation of how the company is tracking towards its goal. And you can identify problems, how you can course correct to get back on track, what's working, what's going well, what's not. And then part of that, there's going to be your performance improvement. So once you've identified what's working and what isn't working, you then need to develop a plan as to how you're going to fix what's not working and how you can improve what is working. Because you can never be stagnant and stay, okay, oh, that's working fine, don't get involved in that. No, you need to find how you can continue to improve and exceed your current performance levels. See, it says that you should always be looking for ways to improve your organization, both in big ways and small ways. So In terms of human resource management, how can we improve organizational performance at all our levels? Well, the first one is to invest in our leaders. That's the most important thing. Skills development within the leader, developing leadership qualities, preventing leadership gaps. All these count. So when leaders are inclusive, employees thrive. And they found that inclusive leadership makes for more productive, more innovative, and more engaged employees. So consider the different ways you can build leadership competencies with your managers. Personalized coaching even can help unlock the potential within your personal leaders, if that's what it takes. Build mental fitness. We found that 55% of employees are languishing. They're in this middle space of not being ill, but not well. They are not thriving. They're not performing at their best. So here's one for your COVID situation. You can thoroughly agree on that there. So how do you fix that? How do you build mental fitness? A mentally fit workforce leads to a more productive team and better employee retention. Employees with strong mental fitness are more likely to recover from setbacks stronger. They come back stronger. And they're also less likely to suffer from mental illnesses like nervous breakdowns and those kind of things happening, and emotional breakdown, etc. So consider providing access to personalized coaching for the employees. With coaching, you can build your employees' mental fitness. Prioritize employee well-being. All this is part of COVID tactics. It's important to understand employees aren't just workers who clock into their jobs. They are human beings. And HR should have some acceptance that employees are human beings first and employees second. And this means taking a whole person approach to employee well-being and mental fitness. Well-being can be holistic, emotional, mental, physical, and financial. So there's a diverse range of employee well-being offerings to help build mental fitnesses. Let's look at some of those there. Let's just see if we can search for that there. Let me just see if I can pick it up. Let's specifically look in remote. Let's see what they suggest there.
I came across an app that DP World actually uses. They call it WellBees. If you Google search that, it's actually a wellness, employee wellness app.
Fantastic. Share it with us.
Oh, yeah.
Share it with us here on the chat box. That's brilliant, Michael. Thank you. So this is one out over here as well that we're seeing over here. There's 10 ways out of here. As Michael is saying, one of the big ways is to get involved with these apps that can really help. Meditation apps like Calm, meditation apps like Headspace, BetterHelp, while Michael is getting that one into there. Is it? So you can research a bit more around these kind of strategies and tactics to bring in, and certainly add these as recommendations. They'll really be good to add on in your work to bring them in. Michael. Okay, thanks, Michael. So this is done by, you say, DP World.
Yes, DP World, yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Oh, wow. Thank you. So they run a raft of ranges over here. They include clubs, events, statics, occupational. Oh, wow. So this is an excellent application that Michael has shared over here. And definitely a must do for online employees, and especially given that COVID situation. So we can definitely, thanks, Michael, brilliant for sharing it. You guys got it in the chat box there. So diverse portfolio of employee well-being offerings that can help mental fitness. We can look at apps that assist employees. Recognize and reward your employees. Employee recognition goes a long way. Recognition and reward boosts employee morale, employee engagement, and even productivity. Yes and no. Yes and no. You find some organizations, especially the current challenging time that we live in, back home, it was very popular in South Africa as a reward. They would give you a fancy watch that was engraved. And then they could vary in the category of watches, but they were generally Seiko, Omega, or one of these category watches, not the super exclusive watch, but they were in that category, Citizen. And they'd be engraved and they'd congratulate you and thank you for your commitment and your efforts in driving the organization performance. Employees appreciated it, thanked them, and end of the day, it didn't make a difference to them. So there are now far more modern methods. One of those modern methods include adding an employee share scheme where employees own shares within the organization. They can be given a set of shares that can be shared depending on their level, how many shares they have. Plus, there can be discount rates if they want to reinvest into shares in the organization and they feel part of their pension fund, they might want to commit a portion of their salary or earnings towards reinvesting, and you can be offering them an internal discounted rate. Now, they seeing a visible, that's a visible improvement. The more effort that they're putting in as a workforce, as a labor force, there's an outcome over here. They're getting a dividend, quarterly dividends are paid out. They're happy with that. They don't want the watch. In addition, they know that they now have an investment that they can pass down to their children. They can pass on to their family. An investment that can possibly pay their children's education or assist or subsidize that education. They want to work towards that. They want to drive that there. So understand how you structure rewards, how these kind of levels are structured, and what's the ultimate impact. What's the kind of recognition and rewards that boost employee morale? There must be an understanding towards that and not just a random days. Yeah, Nine Money, I actually got involved in one of those days. So I actually had a supplier and I had tendered for an organization, a mine, that was running their annual award ceremony. And the mining organization owned about 4 or 5 coal mines. And we got in a range of Tag Heuer watches. And we had them all engraved and done and ready. And the GM came in and he was totally chuffed with the whole package and everything. And he said, okay, brilliant. Guys can deliver it on this day. I'm going to keep this one as a sample to show to the board. And obviously someone on that board was spot on when it came to spotting fakes. And even though we were in the game, we hadn't realized it. And he came back and he slapped this thing on the table and he said, guys, you're going to embarrass us. Contract cancelled. And we got into the workshop and we popped them open. You could say they were part of a big setups inside there. There was nothing of anything of a Tag Heuer watch in those watches. So yes, even in the game, you can absolutely get caught out. And the damage is too big. You can't recover from that. You just got to give it up and find another game altogether. You're gone. It's a reality. Absolutely. Absolutely. We got caught out hands down. And it wasn't intentional. We got caught out as well. And there was no way to recover the money back from the guy. Guy buggered off, was gone, was not available again, and history. So, yes, absolutely. I know that situation too well. So no matter which methodology you adopt, you can invest in organizational strategies that work for you. It can require some organizational change and some new initiatives, but with all your key stakeholders on a board, you can make incredible changes for the better, and you'll likely find yourself better positioned to weather the complicated talent management world. All right, so before we start off over here, what are some of the how does your organization that you currently work for, how does your organization manage this? What are ways in which your current organization that you work for currently or previously maybe recognize and reward its staff? Okay, Osama is out of the gate here, making them more loyal to the company. It's called a loyalty program through stocks program, free stocks, depending on how many years the employee has been with the company. Some are still, that was an initial phase that came out. It is around. However, it discriminates against new employees. It disadvantages employees that are just joining the organization. They should also have that benefit as well. So maybe another structure around it rather than looking at service time. Maybe setting, there are various other methods that can be set up on them. But what are some of the current reward schemes and loyalty schemes that are going on in your organization? What does your organization? Welcoming kit for the new employees. Okay, but how does it reward? Do you understand, Ali? I'm saying now, not the new. You've already joined the organization. Yeah, Michael, your one is a tough environment. It's a very, very tough environment to reward you. Ali, what I'm specifically referring to is an employee that has performed well for the year. You've now done their key performance, everything. How do you reward them? Naimani says end of year bonuses. Yes, Ali, talk to us.
Hello, everybody. So, in my current company or the previous company, they have, like, as Osama says, there is a program, loyalty program. So when you achieve the task or you do a good job, your manager will, let's say, he will share some points with you. That points you can collect it, and you can choose your gift. Okay, there is a Bravo points, there is a what they call it, Bravo and Hero points. So it's a packages, you know. It depends what the manager can evaluate that task you did, and he can and he actually he give like loyal points. You got my point. In the previous company, every 5 years there is a gift. So like after 20 years, they give you a Rolex. Watch. Yes,
Wow,
yes, yes.
okay.
It's a Rolex, yeah. It
Oh,
didn't,
wow.
and imagine like, but in 15, I got the 5 years, which it was a fossil watch. It was
Okay.
good, not bad, good quality watch with the logo of the company in the middle. It's good,
Yeah.
but I mean, 20 years, it should be something different,
Mm.
So as I told you, in the current company, they give you points. You choose
Yes.
you choose your gift, and you can reward yourself by these points.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ali. Thank you. Those are phenomenal contributions. That's really fantastic. But again, as you say, you rightly outline, I'm not denying it, 20 years of service, a Rolex watch, well deserved, well set up. But can you imagine 20 years of having invested shares within the organization and receiving some kind of preferential discount on that and kept investing? What that certificate would have been worth today at 20 years? That's a phenomenal run. And as you say, you're 20 years, 25 years, you start getting ready for retirement, you want to pack it up. This is kind of a passive income that's then developed. And you know for sure your quarterly dividends are substantial. And you can easily say, in addition to all your other investment, there's a phenomenal investment that you have something to show for that 20 years. And I don't deny the Rolex isn't something to show, but yeah, it's different strokes for different people, and I agree with that there. Damla says employee of the month certificate along with some amount of money, a thank you card, and incentives after reaching sales target. Yeah, I've seen those ones. We've had that in previous organizations that have worked even here in Abu Dhabi. We received those bi-monthly. You would get a mall gift card. You could get a mall gift card based at 10% of your salary. So if you earn 10,000, you got a 1,000 gift card given to you if you hit all your targets. There's a 1,000 gift card. And you could go into that mall in any store. If there was a supermarket like a Carrefour, a Lulu, whatever was within that store, you could buy groceries for the month. You could buy anything to value of 1,000 dirham or use that 1,000 towards your purchase. So those kind of things definitely worked very well as well, especially when you're looking at employees that are earning 15, 18, 20,000. They're pulling in an extra amount there, and it's good. Best employees of the month for various contractor staffs to promote safety improvements and gift tokens, values. Yeah, so what we can see is a definite trend is for organizations to so let's put this in a nice way. This is not your business. Your business is not involved in doing rewards. It's not the function of the business. So why are you getting complicated in rewards? If you're not going to go the share route and the financial route, then one of the best ways is take a subscription option with an organization that is specifically involved in these reward functions. So they have the access based on the number of organizations that are joined them. They are getting bigger and bigger rewards out of partnerships. They're walking into jewelry stores. They're walking into clothing stores. They're walking into airlines. They are pulling in big rewards. And by bringing your staff into that category to get a reward card, if you think of it locally over here in the UAE, we have the FASA discount card, which was initially only open to government employees, but is now included into expatriates as well in certain instances. But those kind of cards, those kind of discount programs, say if the organization just switches over and says, bang, they get accepted into the program, employees get this card over here as a benefit. You step out of the complication of negotiating, arranging, managing. There's a huge complex issues. Going through the whole headache of when it doesn't work, it works. You don't need all that there. You have a core function. Directory awards for management certificates and financial, yes. Bonus at the end of the year is popular, very popular. Gift cards on public holidays work very well, very popular here in the UAE, very, very popular. Promotion only after 3 or 4 years can be a bit lengthy. I would say industry average would be 3 years max. It should be a max of 3 years. It should not be longer than 3 years. 3 years should be a base. If at the end of 3 years, you cannot have a solid indication of that employee's performance, what are you going to get in 1 more year? If at the end of 3 years, you could not identify that that staff was exceeding their performance levels or was meeting the targets, I don't see that value in that there. I mean, 3 years, you should solidly have a phenomenal understanding of where that staff member is and be ready to move them to the next stage. So 4 years for me, I think an organization has lost focus at that time. And then they're not concentrating on the staff. They've got a poor staff track record. That's my view when I watch that, because I say at 3 years you should have an understanding. But yes, year-end bonuses work very well. Gift cards, as I say, as performance bonuses or on specific public holidays like our Ramadan now coming up to Eid Mubarak. These kind of gift cards work well at that time. All right, brilliant. We've gone past our break time. Let's take a 15-minute break. We will come back at 8:53. 15-minute break, 8:53, we come back. Thank you. Okay. Give me 1 second. Let's just get back here. You welcome back. Right, so the next part of it is we want to see what is an HR approach. What do we mean by a human resource approach? So when we refer to the approach, we are specifically referring to the methodology and the strategy an organization employs to manage its human resource department and practices effectively. This can be defined as a roadmap for solving an organization's biggest challenges with people-centric solution. The approach is crucial for a number of reasons. Firstly, it ensures that the organization's human resources align with its strategic goals and objectives. Then this further leads to increased efficiency, productivity, and employee satisfaction. Additionally, an effective HR approach can help companies attract and retain top talent, and this is essential for driving innovation, maintaining competitiveness, and fostering growth. So why is the selection of the HR approach important? An HR approach serves as the guiding principle on how organizations manage their most valuable asset, their people. So effective HR practices greatly impact organization performance, and a carefully crafted HR approach is very important in this in impacting organizational performance. So then it's important that the approach is not centered solely on traditional hierarchical structures, but it emphasizes deliberately placing the right workforce in pivotal roles. So high employee engagement is another hallmark of a solid HR approach. Research demonstrates that organizations that exhibit these high levels of employee engagement report up to a 20% or more increase in profitability. HR approaches can influence business growth by forming important decision-making processes. So one of the approach is a human-centric HR approach. A human-centric HR approach is one where people's needs are front and center, and it's increasingly recognized as crucial in today's dynamic work environment, especially with the changes that came in from COVID-19. This human-centric approach it plays a pivotal role in meeting both the physical and mental needs of the workforce. Moving away from traditional practices and focusing on strategic, people-centric, and value-driven HR approaches is essential in today's evolving businesses. Just see, do we cover that one? Okay. So where did this run away? When we talk of a value-driven HR approach, a value-driven HR approach is where we do hiring to add value to the organization. So we look at the Porter's value chain and we look where we are adding value to the organization. Let's read up a little bit on it, Jim. So value-based HR approach is to managing staff contributions that aligns with and reinforces an organization's progressive values. It incorporates shared beliefs and assumptions into leadership decision-making and everyday practices, and it ensures that how people are managed reflects the organization's core principles. So a value-based, value-driven HR approach, we want to add value to the organization, especially in specific departments. So when we look at Porter's value chain, we can then decide for which department or division needs additional value. Based on that, there you have your core focus areas and your supporting functions. You'll then decide where to add more value by adding skilled staff in those areas. So selecting a suitable HR approach aligns your objectives and strategies with HR practices, and they allow your organization to accommodate changes within the workforce and the broader business environment. In addition, a well-chosen HR approach aids in the creation of competitive advantage. Building a skilled, diverse, and engaged workforce is a formidable task. So, that one over there. So how do HR approaches influence business performance? Well, they play a vital role in determining a company's overall performance. They have the power to shape the work environment and influence employee-driven outcomes. As businesses continue to evolve, decision makers recognize the increasingly crucial part of HR in driving their organization towards success. Now, one of the main ways that HR approach affects business performance is by molding the organization's culture, which in turn creates an atmosphere conducive to employee development and productivity. Concurrently, by prioritizing employee satisfaction and development, HR aids in lowering staff turnover, and this ensures a stable and high-performing team that ultimately drives business results. Lastly, the HR approach can enhance decision-making and overall business performance through the use of data-driven insights. By leveraging a workforce analytics, HR can then be able to provide valuable input for informed decision-making. So that decision-making brings us to the next key point. When we look at that data analytics and that decision-making, that leads us to the next strategic level, which is HR planning. So HR planning is a continuous process of systematic planning to achieve optimum use of an organization's most valuable assets. And there are 4 key steps to this process: analyzing the present labor supply, forecasting labor demand, and balancing projected labor demand with supply and supporting organizational goals. So what we are saying over here is human resource planning is tied to the organization's performance. In other words, as demands grow, as the organization continues to grow and expand, so needs the labor force has to grow. It's a causal relationship that both are linked together. So also, as the organization grows, it matures. And HR has a far deeper understanding of the organization's labor requirements. And this is the important part that human resource planning plays a part in, is that they understand, they are watching the data analytics that are coming forward, they're in touch, and they know where the organization is headed, and they start planning for that then. That can be in developing a talent pool, doing internal skills development, internal promotion. All these here are part of human resource planning. So that planning is ultimately tied as well to an individual's growth project. So what we give to the individual to say, if you achieve these targets in 2 years, we can promote you to assistant manager, to this manager. That's already been planned. That's pre-planning. And you have a concept of where you want to get to and where you are taking your staff to. And then from that, the organization can then identify its gaps. Maybe they've already planned for that projection, but they might need additional skills training can take place to develop the individual to be ready to take on that role beyond what they're currently getting exposure to. Then we look at organizational development. So it's a systematic and strategic approach that is crucial for companies aiming to achieve long-term success and sustainability. The approach dives deep into the heart of the organization, ensuring that it not only achieves its desired outputs, but it also thrives in an ever-evolving market. So what sets it apart from other management strategies is its holistic approach. Holistic means overall encompassing. While many strategies focus on some short-term goal or specific aspects, organizational development is fully focused on long-term sustainable improvement at every level. So there are some benefits of organizational development. These include employee satisfaction and retention, increased productivity, streamlining of processes, enhanced decision-making, adaptability, as well as sustainable growth. Sustainable growth over here, sustainable is not referring to a sustainability in terms of environment. Sustainability over here refers to ongoing. You can keep it in perpetuity. It will be continuous. It won't die. That's what sustainability refers to over here. So these are some key organizational development strategies that organizations should be adopting. These include leadership development, train and mentor leaders to drive change and improve, empower employees to own their work and be part of decision making. If you've worked for a Dutch multinational organization, and in quite a few of those countries in Europe, in that area, have a fundamental rule. So if you sit at a board, if you sit in a meeting room, they have very, they do not believe in too much of a hierarchical structure. They have very flat organization. And one of the features is you are expected to contribute. Regardless of your status, that is the idea behind a flat organization. And which works phenomenally. Because what that does, it drives employee value. Employees feel valued when they get to contribute and they participate in the decision making. It adds that value tremendously. And you could have 10, 15 people sitting in there, but every single person has to contribute. You cannot say, no, I have no comment. Now, I agree with this person. You would be performing very poorly. They look down on that there. It's considered a poor performance. You need to contribute effectively, have some suggestion to make. And when you have these kind of organizations, as I say, are very flat organizations, not this big hierarchical function based in there, and you have this kind of employee engagement where they are contributing, you drive a high performance organization. You have all your staff contribute, and they know they're part of that decision making process. They understand how decisions are arrived at. It's not just some thing that came from up there, bang on their desk, follow this instruction. They were part of that process. They looked at the pros and the cons. They understood how the process came to that point. They're now ready to follow through because they know what they went through to get through to that decision there. So it's a very, very, very powerful strategy to have. Employee empowerment. Change management. Managing change by communicating, involving stakeholders, and supporting employees. Performance management. performance management. So you have several organizations that develop KPIs. They're phenomenal. And I don't disagree with that then. However, they forget about them. That's where the crux comes in, is that human resource department needs to understand that a KPI is not a fixed structure. So you've evaluated an employee for the first year on certain set targets. Now, how do you expect the employee to progress? And how are you going to measure that progression from this baseline now? You now have a baseline at the end of year one. You have a benchmark. Now you want to gauge that employee's performance over the next year. It needs an adaptation of their KPIs. The line manager needs to sit with them and discuss what the new goals, the new objectives will be. That doesn't happen. This is where you have the failure point. This is the failure point, is that HR says, fantastic, well done. They give all the bonuses, the rewards, everything. And it's the same KPIs that the individual is expected to achieve again at the end of that year. So what's the value of that KPI? You've measured nothing. There's no progress measured. You cannot say the individual has performed well and has met all their targets. What are their targets? If the targets are same year in, year out, where are you measuring growth? Does anyone disagree with that or agree with that? What do you say? Do you understand the concept? You need to have growth. So you come to year one, you do your KPI performance, you do your annual review, the staff produces the goods, you reward them. However, it does not necessarily mean that you have to promote them. But in order for you to see growth from that staff, you now have a benchmark. There needs to be a revision of that there. It can't continue because you're stagnant. What are you testing against? You have to adapt. It has to be adaptable and it has to show growth. Now you can benchmark and say, when you're ready to follow through from promotion and you've come through 3 years of evaluation, as I say, you can clearly track progress. Clearly, you can track the progress over 3 years. These are the various levels that you've lifted the employee through. Yeah. They're exactly. It's reasonable and achievable growth over the benchmark. So the initial one is a benchmark. Once they achieve that, there are some standard KPIs. They have to still maintain that, but you need to lift your levels up. So you'd have maybe 4 items, 1, 2, the same. 3 and 4 are new objectives. They got to hit new targets, new this, new that. Maybe you could put in, if they didn't have in their first KPI, you could add something simple like delegation tasks. How well did they delegate and supervise other staff? Now all of a sudden there's that delegation and supervisory role, not necessarily that they're a manager. We know down the line we've got them lined up for a management position. That's an interesting question, Osama. Let's open that up. Osama is putting a question there. Support Osama. What? Tell me, instead of me only answering on that there, do KPIs come only from the HR department, or how are KPIs developed?
Hi everyone, just talking from my experience, usually our KPI, the way it's handled, at the end of the year, they send us a link and they ask us to try to answer a certain question regarding the KPI. So what is it? What do you expect by next year? What are you missing? What you are looking for? What do you want? Where do you want to improve yourself? And after answering all these questions, these things gonna be forwarded to my manager. So my manager gonna evaluate it, then it goes to the upper management. If it's approved, then this will be my KPI for the next year. So I'm not sure how the HR department is involved in this process, but that's what I have seen so far.
Okay. Brilliant. Pretty much there. Ali, give me a second. I'm going to get to you. I just want to run through everybody has been contributing over here brilliantly and fantastically. Naimani says, no, it doesn't come that way. Michael says hybrid, it's management and human resource, which is typically what it runs through. It's a hybrid role between management and human resource department. Naqib says it comes from operations. Again, it's not only operations on their own, it's in conjunction with HR. Ali agrees, hybrid by management. KPI should come from a combination, correct. Something like attendance and ethical aspects come from HR. Yeah, Naqib, you're correct. Those kind of things would come through from HR. Starts from corporate KPIs. No. You could have a bottom-down or top-down approach, but actually neither of those are involved. I'm going to share with you now. HR provide the model and format, the team leader. Correct, George. Correct. So HR will provide a model or a framework. George is correct. So this is the integration, is that HR would provide, they would develop based on their industry research. They will work with consultants to develop an effective KPI performance framework. Now, once that framework is developed, they'll then share that template out with the team, and the team will then develop that the goals and objectives for that template. So let's just share what I'm talking about and what everyone is saying. So when you look, we're going to do this now. We're going to get here now. This is our next section that we're getting into. When the job requirement goes out to HR, they are then required to develop and create a job description. They'll discuss and sit down with the managers, and they'll develop and create a job description that covers all the responsibilities. So when you are developing your KPIs, the KPIs are going to be based on these responsibilities that was in your initial job description. They cannot appear magically out of anywhere else. They are developed at the start. When the manager says, here, this is a job description for a corporate accountant. So when the manager says, we need to hire another 2 accountants, then HR needs to sit down and develop a job description. They have to go and do and analyze the job description. They will come back with that up and down with different draft copies with the managers. Senior managers will sit with them. They'll know what they want to achieve. When those are finalized and they're ready to go to market to advertise the job and put it out there that we want to hire an accountant, put it there now, corporate accountant or whatever, but they want an accountant. These will then formulate part of the KPIs because these are your responsibilities. So are you achieving each of these ones over here? And you can just take this lot over here right now and dump it into ChatGPT, and it'll punch out a range of KPIs for you based on that there. So based on your responsibilities is where the KPIs are developed. So your key performance, your KPI sheet, your performance review sheet is developed. Human resource should be developing it at the same time that the job analysis is developed. It should not be developed independently after they hire the individual because it can never be subjective. So they have all the data, regardless of who they hire, the KPI review form, HR should have no hassle in developing that form because all the data is provided here. And the KPI should be developed from here, sent for final approval, any updates, make the changes, it's on record. When you come in and you hire the person, part of that process goes through, these are your key performance objectives that you need to achieve. So they are informed at the beginning of their job, at the beginning of the start of the year. This is your key objectives that you need to achieve. Now the employee understands that there. They also know what the reward basis will be, what the progress traction will be. So it's a big, big process. It's not independent. It's a complex process, and it starts day one, day zero. Day zero, it starts. Day zero is when they develop the job analysis. The KPI should be developed at the same time because everything, all the data is there. It's not dependent on who you hire. Do you hire Michael? Do you hire Nesh? Do you hire Richard? Do you hire John? No. These are the KPIs for a corporate accountant within our organization. Bang, it's on file. And then from that there, you know what's the next step? You develop year 2, year 3. Year 3, we move him to senior accountant, chief accountant, head of accounting department, head of accounts receivable, head of account payable. Subsequently, especially for those high-skilled roles, there will be attachments to that there for that progress to happen. So the same thing, let's say they hire a corporate accountant or a standard accountant that comes into play. You're at an accountant level. Your requirement is for you to have a BA in accounting and any accounting certification. Not necessarily CPA is the highest accounting certification. They require for you to have an accounting foundational degree, an undergraduate degree in accounting, and any certification is optional, but would count better towards that. Now you're going from an accountant position, you have hit all your targets. Let's say they based it over 2 years. After 2 years, you're eligible for promotion, and you're now going to take a role as assistant head of accounts payable. Or you might get a role in as a cost controller, but let's say accounts payable. Assistant head accounts payable. There are different requirements now. You cannot, despite the fact having achieved all your targets, be eligible for that role without meeting the specific requirements for that role. So this is important that HR clearly have a pathway developed. So yes, your progression is you can get one of these assistant manager roles, assistant head roles, assistant head of accounts payable, assistant head of accounts receivable, deciding which way you want to lean and what's available at that time, those kind of things. However, in order for you to be at that level, we require then now you must have completed CIMA, or you must have completed CPA, or you must have DIP IFRS. So in addition to achieving all your objectives, personally, you've also got to uplift and upskill yourself and ensure that you meet those requirements and that you're fully legible. So it's transparency from HR that's important as to what will be the, sometimes you have that, it happens too often. Staff hit all the checkpoints. They get there, they expect to get to assistant head of accounts payable, assistant head of accounts receivable. And then they say, but you're not eligible, because part of that requirement today is that you should have got this degree or you should have this certification. I was like, why didn't you tell me that? I had 2 years, I would have studied and completed that. So it's important to avoid those kind of pitfalls. Lovely, absolutely lovely. And so various strategies out of here, key organizational development strategies. Let's rather make that bigger. You can spend some time and go through them. This is another big one, is learning and development. Provide ongoing training to keep up with market trends. It's important that organizations invest in that there. You find what we call learning organizations or knowledge organizations. I worked for a very large organization back in South Africa. They were an organization called Bidvest. And they have a knowledge organization. And they had a 21 training module that you had to complete. And you got a module book. So depending on your availabilities and the availabilities of when the modules were being held, they were held regionally. So from your different areas, you had to travel to that location if you weren't based in that location and attend the training and return back. So training can be 2 days to 3 days. Some of the big modules might need 2 of those training sessions, and then complete the practical and the examination requirements to pass that module. So typically it takes 2 years, which is what I say is your typical time period. So you're chasing those modules. Once you completed that, then you graduated with a diploma internally from the organization. And based on that successful completion, you are now eligible for the next level positions. All the group that has completed that are promoted. You then take up divisional manager, assistant divisional manager, and you progress through that line. And they even offered specializations through those areas. As they were heavily involved in the hospitality sector, you could take a specialization in food and beverage. You could take a specialization in health and safety. You could take a specialization in customer satisfaction, guest relations. So depending on the level at which you wanted, you could choose a module and a pathway and you could go through it. Now, organizations that are specifically involved with that, there are clearly have everything definite lined up. And those are knowledge organizations, and they keep staff on track, and they ensure that their market skills are at the top. And there are several organizations that I know that follow that kind of system, learning organizations, knowledge organizations, and they encourage employees to develop. Okay, so let's look at the next step then. What is organizational development in HR? So organizational development in HR is about creating a workplace where employees are motivated, productive, and aligned with the organization's values. It's about fostering a culture of continuous learning and ensuring that feedback mechanisms are in place for continuous improvement. So that's a very important point again. So let's get a clean page. Let's get a clean page and let's start listing them down. We've seen first step, proper job description, including roles and responsibilities. All right. Ouch. KPI development. You need to develop the KPI development right at the beginning. Clear and transparent career pathway. And then eligibility requirements for future roles. All right. So we had that there. Now we see the next one. Very important. Okay, this continuous learning and upskilling. Continuous learning and upskilling. All right, that's fine. But here's the next one that comes into that there. Ensuring that feedback mechanisms are in place for continuous improvement. So a lot of people forget about this part. So does someone keep doing wrong and keep making mistakes, and they carry on making mistakes for the whole year? And you only come to the end of the year when you do the performance review. That's when the only time you tell them that you're doing wrong. You can't have that kind of an organization. You can't have that where the person continuously performs poorly and you only respond at the end. Yes, yeah. You can't do that there. That's too late. You cannot be responding at the end of the year, only at the performance review. So you need to design proper feedback mechanisms, and there needs to be dedicated with dedicated checkpoints, maybe quarterly. Maybe quarterly. Quarterly, we run checkpoints in between there. So this is now organizational development. Then we had rewards and recognition as well for those performance. So all these aspects are what come into it. When we look at it now and we've listed everything that we've been discussing, this is what's required. You need a proper job description, including roles and responsibilities. From that, you need to develop the KPIs, not subjective, based on those roles and responsibilities. Then you develop a clear and transparent career pathway. You also discuss the eligibility requirement for those future roles, and you ensure that your organization has a continuous learning and upskilling program. Feedback mechanisms with dedicated checkpoints, maybe quarterly. There must be exit gaps for managers to report poor performing individuals, and there must be methods to correct those poor performances. And then rewards and recognition. Okay, I want to stop it there. We're at 9:32. So for another part of it is, for instance, if the organization design requires a shift towards a more digitized working environment, HR's role to organizational development would be to ensure employees are equipped with the necessary skills through training and development programs, excuse me, to navigate and flourish in this new environment. So each department has its own set of development needs. It's important for HR to ensure that the departments evolve cohesively and they head in the same strategic direction. And there's no loss of focus in there. All right, let's pick up on these slides where we are. I'll start off on Wednesday from here. What is recruiting? I don't know how to kickstart that right now. I know we're chasing time, but if we have to carry over, we have to carry over. So we've looked at how HR impacts organizational performance. Give me 1 second. Let's just do this one. Let's try that again. So you're starting off on this side over here are the strategies. These are the strategies of the organization. This then out over here becomes the tactical operations, how you implement that there, this is the goals. If we are looking at over here now, let's first write this, come on. So these are the goals of the organization. Then this here is the operations or tactics of the organization. And then if you look at it, this here is the final output. This here is what the organization wants to achieve. So it shows you the link between your strategy, which is the goals and objectives of the organization. You develop these tactics, these strategies, and the tactics to achieve those strategies. These involve your human resource management practices, which lead to the human resource outcomes, which is employee competence, commitment, and flexibility. And these deliver the output, which you have a better quality of goods, a better quality of service, a higher productivity, which ultimately lead to financial performance, which means the organization is performing and you're impacting organizational performance. So that's the linkage. If you take that model, that framework, and you break this model up, then there are three parts to this model, which show you clearly how the link comes in a diagrammatic form. How do goals and strategies under HR impact organizational performance? This is now diagrammatically showing it to you. Okay, so we went through quite of this. There's an additional model in that there. Called the Bot and People Performance Model. And very similarly again, but this one over here involves performance management and training and development. The Bot and People model accounts for that there. And as you can see, it links your training and development up with improving performance management within the organization. So another very good model to use, but our initial model of here gives you the linkage that you want to see. We've looked at all these HR practices. We looked at the different approaches to improving organizational productivity. We looked at the specific strategies there, HR planning, the process of HR planning. We went deep into organizational development, as well as the features of organizational development strategies, organizational development activities, include action, research, survey, feedback, interventions, process consultation, team building interventions, intergroup conflict interventions, and personal intervention. These are all team building exercises and done to improve the high performance team within the organization. So phases of organizational development strategy, we look at from the entry to diagnosis to feedback to a solution to evaluation. I know we've got a long way to go, but we can catch up quite a bit on this on Wednesday. We're kicking off with recruitment and selection. So that is where we are at. We are here at what is recruiting. Let me highlight that. So I know where we stopped. If we can carry on just now again, we'll pick up, but I doubt it. All right. So I want to specifically look at the assignment. I said I want to dedicate a bit more time to the assignment today. So this is how you would set up your assignment to ensure that you have a good contents page. Your contents page is well set out. It's showing the different levels. All your headings are in there. So you can easily read through your headings. You can easily see a report format. Your heading should not be question 2. Question 2 is not a heading. You need to understand what is question 2 discussing. Here it's discussing organization's HR function. And you break down each one of your headings and you develop your headings for your paper. All right. So let's start off over here. We don't look at the executive summary just yet. We leave that blank. Let's start from question 2. Provide a brief introduction of the organization and critically analyze the role of different HR functions in enabling your organization to achieve its strategic objectives while reviewing staffing, development, and compensation practices in detail. Right, so first one we want to start off with, provide a brief introduction of the organization, background of the organization. Tell me, what do I put over here? You can go in the chat box, type for me in the chat box. What do I start with? What's important? What do I need to include when I'm discussing on background of the organization? Mission, vision, Richard, without a word of doubt. mission, vision. Mission and vision statements. Must be there. Go for me. Thanks, Richard. Nice one. Carry on. What else? You can't only write mission, vision statement. There has to be. Right. Who we are, company, purpose, and objective. I'm just going to copy it from here. Your objective should be in line with your mission and vision statements. Give me some more. No, not background history. What do I put as a background to the organization? No. You need to tell me more than just company values. What's it called? You can discuss global footprint. Thank you, Ali. So the global footprint is very important. Is the organization domestic, national, regional, international, multinational? Is it global? What goes with that? What goes with global? Thank you. We'll take CAGR. We'll take CAGR from that there. We can put that in there. What goes with global footprint? Type of services. Tell me what goes with the global footprint. Number of employees. Thank you. Sorry, 1 second, 1 second. I'm trying to catch this one. Running away from me. Type of services. So this can be type of services or type of products. You understand that if you're a service organization, if you're a manufacturing organization, what's the type of products that you're manufacturing, retailing? The number of employees. Correct. That can come in as well. I just want to see how to put this down. Naimani has got sample of performances, KPIs, business targets, or challenges. I would crucially include business targets and challenges. And what you can do is include market description. What is a market description? Are you dominating or leader? Are you leading the market? Are you on par with competition? Or are you behind? Yeah, I think that's a good run. That should cover everything through there. Sorry. So you cannot edit on this, only I can edit. No, don't go there. You don't need that there. Who is this? Nahib, don't go there. I think we've covered that question solidly. I think we have everything involved over here. Mission and vision statement, company purpose, objective, global footprint, CAGR, type of services or products, number of employees, business targets and challenge, including market description, leader, are you on par with the competition or are you behind? Right. The next one is HR function. What are we looking in terms of HR function? Where are we in terms of HR function over here? What do we want to discuss there? in terms of HR function? What is it that we need to discuss there? I'm just stringing through here again. What did we just cover? So what you're trying to understand over here, you want to target over here. Where's this gone to? And I'm not sharing my screen. What you want to target over here specifically is the strategic competency that HR functions that HR functions deliver. So the number one strategic competency can be a skills development. It can be talent pool, or let's put talent management. And this can be talent acquisition, talent retention, and talent pool. Those can all lead to strategic competencies. These are functions of HR that can give that. Yes, thank you, Firas. So specifically, you are targeting this under HR function. I know you were supposed to contribute over here, but I'm assisting over here. So HR function relates to strategic competency that the organization gain from the HR functions, exactly what's written over here. Here's it here, the strategic competency that the organization gained from HR function. And these include skills development, talent management, talent acquisition, talent retention, and talent pool development. Anything based over there where HR functions give a strategic competency to the organization. Yes, all that there, all that can be included, all that can be included. Right. Now we have the next question. While reviewing staffing, development, and compensation practices. Staffing, development, and compensation. So here, very simple one. Where did this go? Very, very simple one over here. Just take this back to black, take out italic, and bring that in. Would be under staffing. You reiterate the number of employees, the HR role in the organization, and you discuss the organizational structure. Anybody else wants to contribute anything else to that one? Right. 1 minute, let me. Okay, next question. Development of employees. What are we looking under development of employees? We have to consider this one in terms of our case study. So here we're going to have to look at specific skills required for work from home. for work from home, what are the specific skills required for work from home? Now, not general, Riyadh. It's not just general skills training and leadership training. You need to do it in line with the case study. The case study is about COVID and people are working remotely. So you need to ensure that the skills training is related to work from home. Computer expert, do they need technology assistant? Use of electronic software applications to aid working from home. Might be scheduling tools. All these things have got to come into play. Go back and think of everything that is required at that time over there to run this process smoothly. So that's what's required there in terms of the development. Right. Big question. There's no right or wrong answer for this one. Compensation details. Give me some idea. Think of our case. Think of our case now of going back to COVID. How was compensation managed during COVID? During COVID, was I still entitled to get a transport allowance? Thank you. Salary reduction. First one, let's go with that there. I'm taking that as a start, a salary reduction. Come, please share. Tell me what you expect. No, it can't be terminations and price negotiation with suppliers. Why are you talking about suppliers, Naimani? We are talking about compensation with our staff. You can give bonuses for working extra hours, okay? So I want to come back to Firas there. Hi, Firas. Can you please tell me which organization you work for? I'm very excited. I want to come work for them. Because I work for 16, 17 hours was considered normal. And I was nowhere near entitled to a bonus.
After fighting for a whole 2 years, you get compensations, especially during COVID. That's the only way. In the creative industry, when you do that, everything stops. They rely on you.
Yeah.
So when you stop, nothing will work.
Oh, thank you.
It was during the World Cup, so
Yes.
they had to do compensation.
Okay. There was
so
an added feature to that there, yes.
Yeah.
So this was in Qatar, Firas?
Yeah, true.
Okay, all right. There's a nice one added on over here, data claims. What about a subsidy for data packages? Should you provide your employees with a data package? Then what about, before we get started with all of this here, what about a review? Should there not be a review of the employee's current compensation? You had to review that, because if we're paying an employee a transport allowance, they're not getting transported anymore. They're working from home. So why we still got a transport allowance in there? So there have to be certain benefits that will be either removed. Well, now, Osama, you have to have some sort of feasibility to this here. So what I'm saying is that there's a win and a lose. Some organizations would say we'll remove certain benefits, such as a travel allowance, which included flights or whatever. Nothing is happening now. So instead of that, they're to that value, or maybe to a certain value, or in place of that for this time period, we'll then offer you an expanded health insurance, or we'll offer you a wellness program. Right? Now, what about critical staff? What about critical staff? There are, I'm not only talking in the healthcare sector, there are critical staff as well that had to go and had to work. They had to take that risk. Guys that were working in Amazon, guys that were working in all these delivery and supply chains that had to be at those warehouses and those logistics to get that through. So yes, isolation, I agree. Riyadh, absolutely, that was run. But are we providing a high risk pay because they are now at the front line? You need to think about those situations. You also need to understand how challenging the situation was on the organization in terms of finances at that time. Organizations were looking to cut costs left, right, and center, not to spend. So your recommendations must fall in line with where the organization stood at that instant. It can't be done in isolation of what the organization is experiencing. If they were challenged, they were an organization that was in a great deal of challenge financially, they were looking for every method to cut costs. They wanted to keep staff, but they needed to cut costs. And they were offering new packages, new compensations, new benefits, new this, new that. And it was either you take that or you were without a job. So consider all these points into there when you're answering these questions. Now we're at 10 o'clock. All right, so on Wednesday, we want to get stuck into this one of here because we've covered this one. We've done Dr. Dave Ulrich's model. We've looked at effects at the organizational level. We looked at the impact on the internal organization. So critically discuss and analyze the effect of strategic human resource management to its contribution and impact of HRM activities on organizational performance and development. So let's finish question 3 on Wednesday. Maybe we'll start over there. Maybe we'll start with this. Do you want to start with that on Wednesday, finish the assignment, and then we get into recruitment because this is still fresh on us with the organizational performance. Then we kick off with recruitment and move forward. Okay, so let's do that. Well, then they have the means, absolutely. Then they have the capacity to do that. But certain organizations were challenged. The hospitality industry, as they said, they made an arrangement to use their facilities for isolation. And they were compensating. It was the only way that the government could keep some income rotating for them. Otherwise, that was an industry that was going into absolute dinosaur extinct zone. All right, brilliant. Any other questions so far? Are we okay? Yes, new companies will open up, but we need to know how to survive. We need to know what it takes to survive. How are you going to survive COVID? That's a big one. Okay, you've got that link. We'll keep working on that framework. And what I recommend is by Wednesday, once we've completed number 3, please start tackling to answer the paper. After Wednesday, please tackle to answer the paper up to that point so that you haven't got a huge amount to get through. And by Monday next week, you can even bring questions forward or share drafts with me to say, listen, this is what I've done. Am I on the right track, not on the right track, etc. Firas, go.
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Regarding the documents shared through LMS. There are some readings
folder, there are like maybe 20 documents in it. Should we go through it as well, or what we are doing right now covers whatever is there, or we should read from any scholars or like Google Scholar or ProQuest and so on?
Give me 1 second.
Because honestly, there are so many documents to go through if that's the case.
Firas, I shared with you a weekly email. All right. Please check that you are receiving this weekly email. So in the weekly email that was sent out to you for last week, I've clearly explained over here, these are the readings. So what we've done is, if we go into the readings here, I've numbered them. I have categorized them. I've categorized them from 1 to 21, based on each lesson. So for last week's lesson, these are the 5 articles that you need to read. And then this week's articles will pick up from number 6. So we'll go from number 6 to number 11 or number 10. So each week, I have got a category of articles that you need to follow through, and I share that in the weekly email that you're reading for this week are these ones over here. So follow from the weekly email. Okay, check that email up. It's going to keep building up.
All right. Thank you. I will go through it now.
If you did not receive the weekly email, drop me a message and I need to check what's happening. Just give me 1 second.
One second. I'm
before
checking
you
now.
Yeah, before you log off, let me check that up, that I have got you here.
It's in my junk email. Okay, now I know.
All right, to get it out there,
right.
yeah. Everybody,
right,
please
thank
check
you.
that's coming through. Firas, I've got f_damandan@hotmail.com.
Correct.
Okay, as long as I've
Thank
got the
you,
right
thank
email
you.
there. All right, fantastic. Michael, go for me, Michael.
Just quickly, that document you shared now, that one, the working document, I clicked on it and it says it requires access. I don't know if anyone else had the same problem.
All right, wag 'n bietjie. Let me see there.
Yes, I have the same thing.
Yeah, I ran into the same issue.
Okay, right. Hang on, I haven't adjusted it here. I'm opening it up. Please go and retry again. And let me know. Yeah, there I can see you guys on board. Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Right.
Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. So we'll keep working on that together, as I say, and we'll build the assignment up through that sheet, and you'll be able to use that sheet and work from there. Once you've got a framework, it reduces the whole issue of the assignment down completely. All right, good night, guys. We're talking way too much. Love it to bits. I'll see you guys on Wednesday. Thank you very much. Good night. Good night, everybody. Thank you. Good night. Good night. Thank you. Going to end the meeting here.